We also have no secondary news sources to rumors we've already discussed. We do have a news source that is kind of going against some of the other sources that we thought. We'll get there. Hello again, nerds. Thank you for joining me for another nerdy news episode. In today's episode, we have CW giving the boot to some series. We also have a new Batman on an unlikely streaming platform. And we have a few gaming rumors in the rumor mill. So before we get into all of that, a little bit of housekeeping. Once again, reminder, shoutouts are getting their own entire video these days, so you can head over to the Clips channel to see the shoutouts if you are a new subscriber and you have whatever you need to have set to public, then your shoutout is over on the Clips channel. Nerd News Clips is the name of the channel. Also over on Nerd News Clips, in the next couple of days, we're going to have a Clip channel exclusive talking about Halo Infinite and some of the changes for Season 2, as well as a quick and nerdy and a super nerdy hot take. So all of that stuff happening over on the Clips channel. Go check it out. Go subscribe if you haven't already, or just stay here and I'll keep telling you about it. Either way, I do not believe there is any more housekeeping to knock out of the way. Oh no, I lie. There is a little bit of housekeeping. So this summer, there is some events going on in my general vicinity and some events going on that I am going to leave my general vicinity for. So we will be looking at some different scheduling issues throughout the summer. There's going to be a couple weeks that I just take off entirely, potentially to work on a third channel's worth of content, but that remains to be seen just yet. And also concerts and things, and hopefully some interviews are going to be happening. So depending on which platform you are listening or watching, there's going to be different forms of those interviews. I will try and put them up on as many platforms as I can. But I did just go to the first con of the season and potentially got a couple of interviews tentatively lined up. So as those things happen, we will keep you informed in this section of the video. And that out of the way, let's finally get into the news. So our first news section, as always, is music, and I'm gonna tell you right now, this is the biggest one. We have the most music news today. So we're gonna come out the gate with some craziness. First things, we have follow-ups to deal with, and this one we only kind of mentioned in passing, so it's only technically a follow-up. It's not really something we've been actively keeping tabs on, because this is more interpersonal rather than actual news. But this time it did borderline on actual news, so we're going to talk about it, and it's a follow-up. Anyway, I'm burying the lead here. What the hell are we talking about? Fozzy, lead singer, Chris Jericho, also WWE superstar, AEW superstar, wrestling guy in general, Chris Jericho, has come out and finally admitted what Sebastian Bach has been accusing him of for over a year at this point, and that is that he uses backing tracks for his vocals. I didn't read the full article. I just read that part because it very well could be that the entire band uses backing tracks the way some of these quotes were coming at us. So I was never a big Fozzy fan to begin with, and this definitely doesn't help. Jericho's argument is, well, everyone uses backing tracks. Well, I've been part of this scene for a long time. I've been part of the aggressive music stuff for quite some time. And yes, there are a few bands that do use backing tracks, but most of those bands are not really big bands. Most of those bands are not very well-known bands. Most of those bands are trying to get to that level of stardom, but in order to get to that level of stardom, you have to put on a show. Go figure. And part of putting on a show is soul and emotion and feeling. And if you record all of your parts beforehand, that takes out all of the show and emotion and feeling. Well, at least some of the emotion and feeling anyway. So just, if you want to be a pop star, then go be a pop star. But if you're trying to be a metal band, that's not the way you do it. Anyway, that's my little soapbox. We're going to step down for a moment at least and move along in the follow-up section. Next, we're talking about Megadeth. This one was real quick. Was in an interview Dave Mustaine did on Sirius XM Liquid Metal with Mr. Jose Mangan. He announced who was actually the bass player that was recorded for the new record. Now, the bass player on the new record is not going to be the bass player that they are touring with. That is somebody else. But on this new record, we have Steve DiGiorgio from Testament playing bass. I'm super not big on the 80s and into the early 90s scene for the thrash stuff. Generally speaking, if we're going that old, my tastes are pretty limited when it comes to thrash. Anthrax, Metallica, sure, maybe a little bit of Slayer and Pantera, and that's about it. Otherwise, we're going either heavier or poppier as far as my musical taste it goes. So Testament is not exactly a band that's really actively on my radar. So I'm told that this is an amazing thing. So sure, be happy about that. But unfortunately, I know, hand you my metalhead card, I'm sorry. But yeah, just not a thing that really dinged with me. I thought it was pretty interesting that they got DiGiorgio because I do know at least a little bit of his history in the scene, but just generally speaking, okay, sure, fine, whatever. Moving on. Our other follow-up has to do with that Rammstein thing that we've been keeping tabs on. I'm pretty sure this is related to the new record site. But man, go check out their Instagram. There is some craziness happening over there. It looks like the next single is going to be called Zig-Zag. Still have yet to listen to the first single because, again, reaction videos are a thing that I like to do. And yeah, I'm gonna do what I promise. Anyway, yeah, so Zig-Zag. This is not an official announcement of new music, which is why it's not in the new music section, but it is something. So, that being said, go check out the Rammstein Instagram page, and let's move into, speaking of new music. The new music section is pretty full of some pretty awesomeness. First up, Clutch has released a new single from their forthcoming record, which still has no release date or title, but this song does have a title, and it is Red Alert Boss Metal Zone. There's a really funny story behind this. Neil Fallon is the vocalist for Clutch, and he is notorious for writing nonsense lyrics. Go see the record or the song off the last record, Book of Bad Decisions, about how to make crab cakes, or go listen to Space Grass and realize that there's really no meaning to any of those lyrics. They're just things that rhyme, which normally I'm against, but the way Neil does it, it's pretty awesome. Anyway, so this Boss Metal Zone song, the Red Alert, is kind of based on a space opera, but also kind of based on an effects pedal for a guitar. Yeah, just really crazy. I have yet to listen to this one as well, but that's more out of lack of time than trying to do a million reaction videos, though I am trying to do a million reaction videos. But we're moving right along. We have another new music announcement, and that comes from Five Finger Death Punch. Five Finger Death Punch have finished the recording process for their 9th studio album, which means there is post-production to do, and then marketing, and so on and so forth. So probably by the end of this year, though a release date, as far as I have been able to find so far, does not exist, nor again does an album title yet. So as those things happen, we will keep you informed, but that's what we got. So we're moving on. More new music. This one's a lot of fun. This one I legitimately have listened to a few times, actually. Speaking of Megadeth, Megadeth is going to be, I think, in just about all of our subsections for music this week. But speaking of Megadeth, Lamb of God has teamed up with their tour partners, multiple times over tour partners, Megadeth, and covered their song song Wake Up Dead from, it was their second studio record, I believe. I don't remember. It's not in the notes, but either way, the name of the song is Wake Up Dead. And we did talk about this briefly on the live stream on Friday, but I feel like it definitely is worth noting in a proper episode, since these have a higher view count, that this is definitely a song to go check out. Again, not the biggest old school thrash dude, but I am a really big Lamb of God fan, and this is a very nice marriage of those two sounds. It is not just Dave Mustaine featured on a Lamb of God track, nor is it what I was initially led to believe, a Lamb of God track featuring the dudes in Megadeth. This is a legitimate collaboration between all of the guys in Megadeth, all of the permanent members of Megadeth anyway, and all of the guys in Lamb of God. And it's really fun. Go check it out. It's pretty awesome. Moving on, we do have more new music. This one is could have been in the movies section, actually, but it is specifically about the soundtrack to the new Death Clock movie. Yes, they are still working on that new Death Clock movie that was announced last year. And that being said, we are going to be getting new music from Death Clock. Drummer Gene Hoglan has definitely talked about it in recent interviews, has also implied the possibility of a new tour going forward to promote said new music. This is supposedly going to be the final chapter of the Death Clock story, but I'm game. I'm all for this. This is going to be amazing, amazing, amazing. Yeah, so that's a lot of fun. That is what we have for new music, though. We do have some tour news to get out of the way, and this we're not going quite so heavy this time. So in touring, we have first up is Everclear. Everclear is going out on tour with Fastball and the Nixons, so a little bit of 90s alt-punk for you. This tour starts June 9th in Emmet, Idaho. It runs through September 7th in Henderson, Nevada. There was not yet tickets on sale as of recording this, though potentially as of posting this, that could change. Either way, though, Everclear going on tour. Never got to see him when I wanted to as a kid, so definitely going to be catching this one. Moving on, our other tour that we're touching on for this episode is Head PE. Really random. This is just because of the name of the tour. The name of the tour is the New Metal Madness Tour. Head PE, Crazy Town, Adema, and FLAW. All bands I have seen live, regrettably in some cases, but still, you know, whatever. This tour starts July 6th in Denver, Colorado, runs through July 30th in Reedley, California. Relatively short tour, but they do hit a lot of different places, so if you are interested in the new metals, then you can go check the link in the description for your tickets. That is all we have for tour news. It looks like next episode we will have quite a few more tours to talk about, but that is only if some of these announcements actually happen. So that brings us into the news section of the music news section. So for regular old news, we're going to touch ever so briefly on the Grammys, and this is honestly just to reaffirm the reason why we're no longer covering the Grammys on this show. The founders of the Metal Blade Records label, as well as Joey Jordison, as well as Metal Church's vocalist, as well as a bunch of other heavy hitters on the heavier side of music, were completely snubbed as far as the telecast was concerned. Few of them did make it into the website announcement on the in memorandum, but the important part of the Grammys is what they broadcast, and they didn't even reference these people who passed this. Alexi Lieho, so many great players and musicians. They did, though, include Taylor Hawkins, so there's at least that, being as he is the most recent passing, but I feel like to leave out somebody like Joey Jordison, who literally has left his imprint on so many multiple dozens of bands, I feel like is a major oversight and is kind of a snub for people who are into more aggressive styles of music. So that being said, that's why we don't cover the Grammys. That's why I probably, like, we might mention them in passing just because, like, when people like Dream Theater win Grammys, that's fun. Or when Mastodon, who always deserves to win the Grammy because they are some of the greatest songwriters in heavy music or in music in general, then yeah, we'll probably touch on that, but it'll be brief, and this is the last we're going to spend any significant time on this subject. Moving on, we have a fantastic announcement. Danny Elfman has announced the replacement for his guitar player. The guitar player he had to replace was Robin Finck. Robin Finck had a previous engagement with Nine Inch Nails. Apparently that has gotten in the way of the rescheduled Coachella Festival. There are 2 Coachella festivals happening this year. Danny Elfman is going to be playing at both of them, and the replacement for Robin Finck is going to be Wes Borland. So Danny Elfman is going to be sharing the stage with Wes Borland. Not just Wes Borland, but Josh Freese on drums, Stu Brooks on bass, and Nili Brosh on the other guitar. And with Freese and Borland and Elfman on stage together, I really wish I could go to Coachella. I never thought I would say these words, but I really wish I could go to Coachella. I really hope that there is some amazing video coverage of this, just because those are 3 incredible musicians. And so if you have an opportunity to see them and you don't have to pay $500 for a ticket, then absolutely do this. I mean, even if you do have the money and you can pay $500 for a ticket, then absolutely go see this. But if you're poor like me, then you're gonna have to wait for the video to come out later. That being said, that is what we have for the music section for this week, nerds. We do have a suggestion this time around. This one's going a little deeper and slightly more obscure, but it's absolutely worth a listen. This week in music suggestions, we're talking about Battle of Mice is the name of the band. The name of the album is A Day of Nights. This is from New Rot Records. It is actually a collaboration between Made Out of Babies, some major players from the Made Out of Babies camp, as well as from Neurosis. And I think there's a couple other New Rot artists involved in this as well, but primarily it's those 2. And if you like the, quote, post-hardcore sound of Made Out of Babies and also the, quote, post-metal sound of Neurosis, then this is an amazing amalgamation of those 2 sounds. And just fantastic. Julie Christmas's vocals are incredible. The layering that you get from the dudes in Neurosis, and oh my god, this is honestly one of my favorite, like, offbeat records ever. So absolutely worth a listen. Go listen to A Day of Nights from Battle of Mice. Let's head on over now to gaming and tech. In gaming and tech, we have one follow-up. This is technically something we talked about again in the Friday live stream, but again, viewership on these is a little better, so we're going to bring it up one more time. E3 2022 is not happening at all. They are going to be skipping another year. This is, I believe, the 3rd time in the history of the 20-something year convention, expo, whatever, that they have canceled for the year. Last year being number 2, and then I think there was another one back in the late 90s, but I don't remember because I take wonderful notes. But yes, this year's E3 has been canceled, and 2023 is still going to happen, at least as it stands right now. Moving over to the trailers subsection, now we are talking about Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker saga. Lego Star Wars, some fantastic family-friendly gaming, and now we're getting all 9 movies. This is reportedly the largest of the Lego Star Wars, or of the Lego games, period. So because you have to fit 9 movies worth of story in there, plus all of the crazy extras that they usually throw in to these Lego games. And we have a trailer about the game. If you follow the link down in the description, just sounds like it's going to, and looks like it's going to be a freaking blast. The Lego games are always a hit. We have one other trailer that we are going to be talking about, and that is The Witcher 4. Now, technically, this is not a trailer for the game. This is just the tech demo for what they're doing with Unreal Engine 5. Since they are switching over to that engine to build this game, we get just a couple of minor glimpses into what's going into The Witcher 4. But it's totally worth a watch. It's pretty awesome. The guys at CD Projekt Red are definitely ready to move past the cyberpunk debacle, and I mean, they already have done pretty well with that anyway. So that is what we have for trailers. Go check it out. In news for gaming and tech, we're starting things off with a tech piece, and if you have been living under a rock, welcome. This is what daylight looks like, and Elon Musk has apparently bought a controlling stake in Twitter. So this is, again, in almost literally every other news outlet. The big thing here is that the bare bones information, I guess more appropriate. The bare bones information that we have here is that Elon Musk now controls 9.2%, which is the largest percentage of any single entity in the stakes of Twitter. So Elon Musk has the biggest vote on everything that happens with the company going forward. And now he's teasing the idea of perhaps an edit button. How that works, or how that could work, very much remains to be seen, though I'm going to throw a little bit of my conjecture out there. I believe, because Elon is a very big proponent of not only free speech, but transparency, I believe that if such a thing comes about, the edit button will log the different changes, so people will be able to go back through and see what you originally tweeted, but they'll have to actually click through and see those changes, whereas the raw tweet that has been edited will still be what they see initially. So again, very much conjecture, just throwing that out there, but I believe something along those lines makes the most sense, considering, you know, where Elon falls on a lot of things. Our next piece of news has to do with Xbox Game Pass. There is rumblings in the industry, and from good sources, not just leaks and whatnot, but good sources are saying that this technically could have been a rumor, I guess, but it's from so many sources and from so many good sources, I couldn't help myself. I had to put it in here. Anyway, Xbox Game Pass is reportedly going to start a family plan option. It's going to be, I believe the tiers starts at 3 people. You can have 3 different people on one account, and it's going to be cheaper than having 3 separate accounts, which is how you would have to do this currently. So if you were on your Xbox Game Pass playing any game, and then say your dad wanted to play his game, or your girlfriend or whoever else wanted to play a different game at the same time as you, then either you would have to stop playing your game, or they would have to have a completely separate account. That is apparently going the way of the buffalo, and if you have multiple people on a single account, it is going to be cheaper than having multiple accounts, though they did not say what the cap was going to be. No super specifics have been released just yet. As that happens, we will definitely keep you informed. And then let's talk ever so briefly about Crystal Dynamics' most recent announcement for Tomb Raider. Crystal Dynamics and Square Enix have announced that there is going to be another Tomb Raider game. They did just announce that, I believe, yesterday as I'm filming this. So it is going to be another Unreal Engine 5 game, and hopefully they can continue on the pretty decent path they've been on. It hasn't been great as of recently, but it's been better than expected, so there's that. But yes, this is just a new announcement from Crystal Dynamics and Square Enix, and that is what we've got until we hit suggestions in gaming and tech. And for suggestions this week in gaming and tech, this is not going to be a gaming suggestion, but a tech suggestion. So I recently found, and I've also found out that this is only a year or two, probably a little over 2 years actually old, but Vivaldi Browser, V-I-V-A-L-D-I, Vivaldi Browser is a new browser on the market. It is a Chromium browser, so that means it's based on the source code for Google Chrome, but it is so incredibly awesome as far as productivity is concerned. So when I'm doing research for these episodes, when I'm doing multiple things, I can have my tab, instead of having just tabs across the top of my browser, I can have each tab open inside the same window at the same time. So I'm looking at multiple pages while I'm doing, writing for Kamidogu, or if I'm doing, again, research for this, or if I'm trying to watch a video on YouTube instead of just listening to it while also trying to get some other work done, so on and so forth. This is just super, and I'm only beginning to scratch the surface of its usability. It is super, super user-friendly. You do have to, there is a little bit of a learning curve because it's fairly different from the browsers you're used to, though should be relatively familiar to anyone who actively uses Chrome. I am not generally a person who encourages people to use something that is Google-based, let's say, but this is an exception to that rule. Absolutely worth a look if you are somebody who does a lot of work on the web. Vivaldi Browser is going to help with your productivity immensely, so go check it out. Comic Books and Books doesn't exist this week, but we do have a suggestion nonetheless. Even though the section for news is not, there wasn't enough here for that was really worth talking about, we are going to talk about book suggestion this week. Not comic book, but an actual novel. Actually, technically a series of novels, or what is going to be a series of novels anyway, and that is the King Killer Chronicles by Patrick Rothfuss. The first of which is called Name of the Wind, the second of which is called A Wise Man's Fear, and they are going to be probably the best pieces of fiction, not just fantasy, not even just science fiction, because it is a little bit of both, mostly fantasy, but there's a touch of science fiction in there too. But it is just going to be the best fiction that you have read for the last 20 years. At least that was the case with me, and I read a fair amount. So that is definitely saying a lot. And also, I think Patrick Rothfuss is not exactly a person I would get along with in person, but his writing is amazing. Amazing. Absolutely, absolutely. The tale of Kvothe and how he becomes the King Killer, which you still don't know because the third book has yet to come out, though there are a bunch of side books as well. We're not going to necessarily bring those up directly, but yeah, King Killer Chronicles, first book, Name of the Wind. It is absolutely something that everyone who considers themselves even slightly nerdy, or even if you just like to read fantasy books, this is the book for you. I can't sing their praises enough. So TV streaming is pretty decent size this week. TV streaming, we have mostly follow-ups, but that's not the entirety of it. But so let's get the follow-ups out of the way. Our first follow-up has to do with Batwoman. The official announcement has been made that Batwoman will not be coming back for a season 4. So once season 3 comes to an end, it's kaputski for Batwoman. That being said, the writers of the show are taking to Twitter to try and get the fandom, however limited it may be, to get behind them and potentially work out an angle that they can get renewed for another season or something along those lines. Maybe some HBO Max shorts event, I don't know. But as it stands right now, though, Batwoman will not see a season 4 in the near future. Going forward, that potentially could change, but I don't see it. Our next announcement is another Witcher announcement. This time we're talking about the series and not the game. This announcement is that Season 3 has begun principal photography, and if you look real hard on the internets, you can find your first glimpse of Henry Cavill, or if you're just watching me right now, you probably see it on screen. First glimpse of Henry Cavill in makeup and in the costume once again as Geralt. Yeah, just awesome. And we're moving right along. Next, we're talking about Fallout over on Amazon Prime. The Fallout series, again, Jonathan Nolan and his wife Lisa Joy are producing, I believe writing as well. Ella Purnell has been cast in a yet-to-be-disclosed lead role for the series. Ella Purnell has been in a couple of things recently. She's fairly young, but she joins Walter Goggins, who you might remember from the Righteous Gemstones and a couple of other Danny McBride projects and many, many other things. He's been in quite a bit. But yeah, interesting casting so far. I really like Goggins. Purnell, I'm going to kind of reserve judgment on whether or not that was a good casting choice until we know A, who she is, and B, where they're going with the series. But that could be a pretty awesome situation going forward. That's what we have for Fallout, though. So next we're going to talk about Star Trek Picard, the series that I think is continuing bearing the torch for the next generation. And this just confirms it. We just got the announcement that we have multiple Next Generation cast members coming back for the final season of Picard, Season 3. We have LeVar Burton, Michael Dorn, Jonathan Frakes, Gates McFadden, Marina Sirtis, and also Brent Spiner is coming back for another visit to the set of Star Trek Picard. Once again, this is going to be the third and final season for this series, but what a ride this has been. Some of the stuff has been fantastic and some of the stuff has been uber cringe, but I feel like the good outweighs the bad. Maybe not quite as good as Next Generation, but you know, it's trying. Let's move right along. Our final follow-up has to do with Gotham Knights. And honestly, this one was announced, I don't know how I missed this. This one was announced, I think, a week, maybe even 2 weeks ago. And I apologize that I missed it, but we're talking about it now. Misha Collins has been cast as Harvey Dent in the Gotham Knights series. And we just got word that they are going into principal photography on the pilot episode, because apparently it hasn't been picked up for series yet. I thought it had. I'm so confused. Either way, pilot episode is going into principal photography next week, which is pretty quick, not gonna lie. That is, though, what we have for follow-ups. Next, let's talk about trailers in the TV streaming section. Our first trailer comes from HBO Max, and it is for Barry Season 3. If you're watching this show, this is more of the same awesome. It was a fun trailer. I think I've watched the first episode of this and I really like it, but I just have so many other things on my plate to watch. It's kind of taking a back seat, but it is a lot of fun to watch. So go check this one out. The other trailer that we have is a little more probable as far as the nerd community is concerned. And that is a Batman series is headed over to Spotify. And actually this is technically a follow-up, because when they announced voice cast for this new Batman Unburied series, we talked about it here on the show. So this is just the trailer for the first season of the Unburied series. It sounds interesting. There is definitely some hardcore changes to the lore, but treat it like an Elseworlds, and I think it kind of works. I'm gonna pass this off to you nerds. What do you think of this trailer? Because I really liked those Wolverine shows over on, what was it, on Stitcher, I think is where it initially came out before it went for free up on Apple Podcast. But yeah, this looks like it could be at least that good, and that wasn't even the greatest Wolverine story ever told, but it was fun, and it was very interesting to listen to. Basically an audio play, a teleplay, if you will. Or audio play. Teleplay would be TV, whatever. It was really fun listening to an audio play with those Wolverine, the Logan series. I can't even remember what it was called now. I still have it on my iTunes, whatever. So Batman Unburied, go listen to the trailer. Let's talk about it. What do you think? And then we're into news. We have the announcement. We finally know what Robert Downey Jr. was talking with HBO Max about, and that is 2 potential series. Honestly, both series could exist simultaneously, it sounds like, but one of the 2 is more likely to happen. I don't know which one of the 2, but it's more likely that one of these things will happen and the other one won't, because it's 2 similar products, though they are making it sound like we could very well have 2 different Sherlock series on HBO Max, with Robert Downey Jr. and his production company helming the production of said series, though it is unclear at this moment in time, should one of these happen or either of these happen, that Robert Downey Jr. would reprise his role as Sherlock, or if he would just be at the production seat and then cast somebody new to take over. If that were the case, then this is very likely not going to be a continuation or a prequel of the Guy Ritchie movies, but still could be something interesting. Like, just the thought of more Sherlock stuff kind of has me happy and excited. That is all we have for news in TV streaming. So, TV streaming suggestions. Now, this one's a little divisive. I'm going to be suggesting to you Big Bang Theory over on HBO Max. I know we're hitting that HBO Max drum pretty hard this episode, but I mean, there's some good programming over there, so whatever. But the reason this is divisive is because there are three different camps to this. The main camp, I feel like the camp that I am a part of, is the camp that just appreciates it as funny and as call-outs to this nerdy culture that we all love so much. Then there's the second camp that is nerd types that are taking themselves a little too seriously, who see the quote-unquote nerds as punchlines as a negative thing, and they're the leads of a sitcom, so everything is a punchline. So I don't see the validity in that argument. But then there's also the third camp that thinks that they're just horrible to women, and this is examples of toxic whatever. And to them I say, grow up and get a sense of humor. Either way, I think it's awesome. I think more people should have an appreciation for it. So that is why I'm suggesting Big Bang Theory in TV streaming this week. So that was TV streaming. Up next is movies, but we do have to interject real quick. There is a live show that happens Friday nights, 7:30 Mountain Time in the States. I mean, you can watch from anywhere because it's on YouTube, youtube.com/generallynerdy. That is the place to join the conversation live, become part of the news show, if you will, and just generally hang out and be nerdy with all of the rest of the nerds. There is also gaming involved. After we talk about the news, I do another hour to 2 hours of gaming, and that is a community choice as well. So if you want to contribute, if you want to see me embarrass myself in games, then join Generally Nerdy on YouTube, youtube.com/generallynerdy, and do that. There is also the website, generallynerdy.net, where you can get your merch, or you can go see the other stuff that happens with Generally Nerdy. Thank you very much, nerds, for the contributions and all the interactions and all that stuff, and I love your faces. And now, movie news. Movie section is tiny, so let's get into it. We have one follow-up. It has to do with The Batman, and this one's just a box office follow-up. We have crossed the 700 million marker worldwide. That is huge. The only other DC-branded movies that have beat that number are the second two Christopher Nolan Batman movies. So Batman is DC's cash cow, and they need to lean into it with writers who know what the hell they're doing, because obviously that is working for him. And that's even with writers who only kind of know what the hell they're doing. So, I mean, Christopher Nolan movies aside, I'm talking specifically about Matt Reeves' Batman. Either way, that's pretty freaking huge. The only follow-up we have for the movie section, we do have one trailer that was just released last night, and that is Bob's Burgers. The movie has released its trailer, and it's been a couple of seasons since I've sat down and put Bob's Burgers in front of my face, but I remember a fair amount of it, and this looks like it is definitely going to be super, super fan servicey and awesome. So if you are a fan of Bob's Burgers, then you owe it to yourself to go watch that trailer, linked in the description. Then we have some news, and this one is a very strange piece of news, I'm not gonna lie. We have the announcement that The Crow is still apparently trying to happen, and Bill Skarsgård, aka Pennywise in the Annie Muschietti It movies, is going to be playing the lead. Now, depending on which source you're reading, those words are different. Some places are saying he's going to be the lead, very nondescript, the lead. There are a couple other sources that are saying he is going to be playing Eric Draven, which means they're going to be rebooting the series entirely. Both are strange choices. Second one more so, I think. Maybe create a new Crow story for a new character. that's one of those holy cows that I don't think that, or sacred cows, whatever the saying is, that I don't think you should really screw with too much. I'm pretty sure even when it was Jason Momoa who was going to be playing the lead, that it wasn't going to be a proper reboot of the Draven story. That was the original comic book story too. So very interesting. We have Rupert Sanders also on board, so we have a director, and we have Zach Balin on board as a scriptwriter. So it's actually moving forward. This is more announcement than we ever got when Momoa was attached to it. I think there were a few directors who were attached to it, but we never heard anything about screenwriters. So now that we have star, director, and screenwriter, sounds like there might actually be some legs to stand on here. Like I said, super quick movie section. We're into suggestions already. Movie suggestions for this week. We have Batman 1989, Michael Keaton with The Flash on the horizon. You need to re-up your Batman knowledge, at least as far as the Michael Keaton Batman is concerned, because the first 2/3 of this original Batman movie from Tim Burton, pretty comic book solid. There are some exceptions to that rule, but by and large, first 2/3, pretty awesome. That's not until the final third, when Warner Brothers got their dirty little mitts on it, that it became something else entirely. But definitely awesome movie. If you haven't watched it for a while, go watch it again, especially considering we are on the cusp of seeing Michael Keaton return to the cape and cowl in The Flash. So that being said, that's what we got for movie suggestions, nerds. And then the rumor mill happened. So here we are, rumors. A lot of optimism in this week's rumor mill. So first up, we have no confirmations or refutations. We also have no secondary news sources to rumors we've already discussed. We do have a news source that is kind of going against some of the other sources that we thought. We'll get there. Anyway, so first thing for the rumor mill is Legends of Tomorrow over on the CW was also potentially going to be getting axed. Now, there has not been an official announcement for this yet, so anyone who's saying that it's going to happen is really just going off of conjecture. But considering that all of the signs that are pointing in this direction were also the signs that were pointing in the Batwoman cancellation direction, it's a pretty safe bet that this is going to be an announcement happening very soon. So I'm saying about 75% likely that the Legends of Tomorrow series is not going to be getting renewed for another season. So our next rumor is actually a little bit larger, not necessarily meta, but just not really specific. It has to do with Ubisoft, the gaming developer. Ubisoft is reportedly going to be announcing a new Prince of Persia game, as well as the rumored Assassin's Creed game that they've been working on for a little while. And we're going to be getting some updates on Beyond Good and Evil 2, which is pretty big for a fan. The rumor, depending again on which source you're talking about, some of the sources say that they specifically leaked that there's a date when these announcements are going to be made. I don't know if I buy that. I honestly didn't write down the date just because that's how much I don't really buy that. But I do think that soon is a fair way to put this. That soon, maybe not, but soon, sure, that very likely these three, we already know Good and Evil is in the works, but very likely we're going to be getting this bit of news soon. And honestly, this is probably in response to the lack of an E3 this year. So maybe we're looking a couple of months down the road, but not a couple of weeks down the road. So 60% likely that this is going to happen a little ways in the future. Next up is a Disney rumor, technically speaking. It has to do with The Simpsons. This rumor says that we are going to be seeing a new Simpsons movie in the not-so-distant future. This is based on people who worked on the first movie hinting at such things. So I think there's a pretty strong possibility. And Disney now owns The Simpsons, and Disney is what Disney is, and they want to make all of the money. So another Simpsons movie probably would make them a pretty chunk of change. I'm giving this one about an 80% likelihood that this is the gears are starting to work. Will we see it soon? Probably not. It does take the Simpsons team a very long time to do episodes, let alone a movie. So if we're hearing rumor about it now, we're probably at least 3, probably more like 5 years away from seeing a Simpsons movie come out of Disney. Next, we have another gaming rumor, and this one has to do with Overwatch 2. It's another Overwatch 2 rumor. This time, apparently there is going to be a battle pass involved. This is based off of some of the concept art that has been released recently for Overwatch 2, which kind of goes in line with the way the industry is headed these days. So absolutely, I think there's a strong possibility that when Overwatch 2 launches, there's going to be some sort of battle pass structure involved. 80% likely that this is a thing as well. Staying on the gaming side of rumors, we have a new Grand Theft Auto 6 rumor. This is, like I said, we've covered multiple Grand Theft Auto 6 rumors. We actually covered multiple Grand Theft Auto 6 rumors that are dealing with similar subject matter even. We're specifically talking about who the protagonist is going to be in this game. Previously, we've heard many things. It's going to be the first female-led protagonist. It's going to be the first whatever, what have you. And that, Dre is going to be in whatever. This rumor says that you're going to have an option between 2 different protagonists, and they're going to be a brother and sister. Whether or not you have to be both of them, or if you choose which one you play through the entirety of the game, still remains to be seen. This is just a rumor after all. But because of the nature of the Grand Theft Auto 6 rumors and all of the things that we've been dealing with for this game for the last little while, we're saying that probably 40% likelihood that this is the case. I think it's an interesting take, and I think it would be a good way to cover all of your bases, because you don't want to alienate the existing fan base, but you also want to do something that's going to potentially bring in more people, and considering the social climate these days, that's a good way to bring in a certain group of people. So yeah, it kind of makes that kind of sense, but this is not the first Grand Theft Auto 6 rumor we've heard. This is from pretty weak sources. This is not the greatest rumor as far as the quality of the source is concerned. So 40% likely that this is going to be the case with Grand Theft Auto 6. There is a bunch more news, nerds, but it's in older episodes, so you're going to have to go check those out. There should be buttons appearing, if you're on the YouTube, there should be buttons appearing to the side of my face that you can click or tap in order to go check out those. If you're falling behind on your nerd news, that is the best place to catch up. But if you want to contribute, then there is the live show Friday nights, about 7:30 Mountain Standard Time. You can join me on the YouTube there as well. Don't forget to find me on all of the socials, do all of the things. Thank you very much, nerds. Don't forget to check out those other videos for all of the nerd news. And before we head out from here, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.